You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 41, John Lord Windows. And coming to you from the home of the Deep Dish Pizza, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, it's your co-host, John Bahama Mama Matola.
Oh, I get this. I know this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just got back from a trip to the Bahamas.
I did.
Well, how was that?
It was good. It was not here. There's nothing, I keep saying there's nothing wrong with sitting on a beach in the middle of January. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I can say you were doing some field research too, because you sent me some Deep Purple related footage from the Bahamas.
Oh, that was an absolute riot. I had to record it for the show.
So what I've seen this video, but I still kind of had trouble understanding exactly what was going on.
All right. So the hotel that I was staying at was next to a casino, the Atlantis, which is, I guess, a very popular port for a lot of cruise ships and tourists alike. But the place next to it was where I was staying, which, the Atlantis made it look like crap. So, but anyway, so my hotel had the type of entertainment that kind of hotel would have, which is the equivalent of like a high school talent show performance. So there were a bunch of I'm sitting at the bar having one of my free drinks, and they're doing and actually the music wasn't bad. I have to give them credit, but it was just it was a bunch of like 4 or 5 people that were performing, like lip syncing, with some really basic choreography to rock, like classic rock songs, like 80s songs. They were doing like everything from like Journey to Michael Jackson to, I think there was Quiet Riot in there. I was like, I'm really getting into it. Then all of a sudden I hear the familiar strains of Smoke on the Water. So immediately I got my camera out and I had to film it and send it to you, because it was just like I said, these 4 like probably local people from the island that work there that probably have no idea who Deep Purple is, and they're doing this like there's a guy with a guitar and he's going like this, like obviously doesn't know how to play.
Was it even a real guitar?
Fake strumming. It looked like a real guitar, but they were just doing this crazy choreography. The best part of the show I didn't film for you though, just to show you the quality of the entertainment, was in the middle of the show, there's a guy, a cleanup guy. He's wearing the full orange vest, and they're dancing around, and he's there with the fucking broom just sweeping up in the middle of the stage. He's like, he doesn't even know there's a performance going on. He's in front of the stage, and then he walks through the stage like there's no performance going on. He just walks right in the middle, and there are these people trying to do the choreography, and he's like, hey, screw you people. I got to clean up. And he's just pushing the broom. He's carrying a wastebasket. And they didn't care. Nobody cared. So it was hysterical. It was the best part of the show, that they didn't mean for it to be the best part of the show.
Did you get that part on tape?
I wish I did, but it happened like so fast, and I waited for him to go up there again. I had my phone ready, and it didn't happen. So
I love that. It's like, all right, you're doing a show. I've got a job to do. We've all got a job to do. I'm doing my job. Get out of my way.
Exactly. It's like at first it started with him like at the corner of the stage, like in front. We're like, is that guy cleaning up over there? And then he just right in the middle of everybody, in the middle of the performance. And I'm like, if I was paying extra for this, I'd be pissed.
But awesome.
Yeah, that being said, it was a fun time. I just say the hotel and their entertainment was a little bit on the budget side. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Just hearing Deep Purple and immediately thinking like, I know who I'm sending this to.
Yeah, we haven't had a field report in a while. That's great.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep up to date on the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcatcher. You can subscribe on YouTube, though I will say, because it has come out recently, people saying that, oh, the sound balance is a little weird. If you're watching this on YouTube, this really isn't intended for YouTube, but as a byproduct of us making the show, we're kind of left with this video. So we figured early on, hey, let's just throw it on YouTube. And we actually get a lot of comments and things from YouTube, but for superior audio quality, I'd recommend subscribing to one of the links down below and listening to the audio feed. If you want to help support the show, 2 ways you can do it. You can become a patron on Patreon, donate as little as $1 a month, or you can give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would very much appreciate that. Thanks to our patrons. Recently moving to the $10 super champion tier is Steve Seaborg of nameonanything.com and alltheworldsofstage.net. Really appreciate Steve for doing that. The $5 tier, we have Clay Wambacher. The $3 tier, Peter Gardeau and Ian DeRosier. And wait. What's that? We've got a new patron coming in at the $3 tier, Frank Thielgod Mortensen, which I think hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Thank you, Frank, for joining in. Appreciate that.
You didn't tell me there was going to be sound effects.
Well, I know. Well, I got this in my stocking for Christmas, and my kids are obsessed with it. So I was like, for the show tonight, I was like, I want to bring this down. This should be in the studio. It's got all these great sound effects. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I know one of my sons has this little place where he likes to stash all of his favorite things. He's in love with this thing. So I looked in his special stash, and of course, it was there. So I grabbed it.
Wow. Well, that's well. The next time something like that happens, let me know, because I have appropriate sound effects too.
There's also inappropriate sound effects. They like to sneak up behind you and do that. But hey, we gotta get going with the rest of the patrons. Wait a second. We got another new patron. Mark Robach joining in as well on the $3 tier. Mark Robach, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. And in Rhode Island, it would be pronounced Mock Robach, but everywhere else, Mark Robach or potentially Mark Roback. Thank you very much for joining us as well. We really appreciate it. And then, of course, the $1 made-up name tier, we've got L's Murders and Spacey Noodles. So sooner or later, someone with a real name is going to join that tier and ruin the made-up name thing. But for now,
no, we won't let them. We won't let them.
No, we'll enjoy that. Big thanks to our brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, who has just concluded his podcast with the end of the era, the end of Black Sabbath, did the 13 album, and kind of did an extended farewell episode. So looking forward to what he may bring next. He's been posting a lot of cool things on YouTube of him, his latest vinyl finds when he goes to the record store. And that's actually, I was like, you should do a YouTube channel of just that. The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, and of course, the chairman, Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts, and the patron saint and archivist of the Deep Purple Podcast, Jörg Planer. Thank you so much for all of your help. So we've got a lot of updates this week. Lots of stuff going on in the social sphere and all around. We've got, first off, Gotta Hear 'Em All, a new website by Allegra Hill, who I think we've mentioned her before, but she is a music history. She studies music history and went to school for music, I think, and specializes in Deep Purple. And she started a website that kind of has daily little updates similar to what we post on Twitter. So it's great stuff. We also, Trinklebacher, Michael Erickson, wrote on his website, Top 5 Podcasts of 2019, and we were number 1. Oh,
yeah, that blew me away. That was
totally
awesome.
Blew me away too. And I mean, obviously he's a Deep Purple historian and journalist of many, many years. So we kind of had a little bit of a leg up with being that loves Deep Purple, but to be included on that list at all was pretty amazing. So thank you very much, Michael. We appreciate that. Jonathan Headland on Instagram says, well-deserved, guys. Your pod set me out on a new musical frontier, even after a lifetime of hard rock nerdiness. So thank you, Jonathan, for bringing that on. We've got 2 reviews in Apple Podcasts. So thank you. The first is from CH, another CH. I don't know what that means. This is from December 29th. Deep Purple list. Probably from my older brother. I got a 45 of Kentucky Woman when I was 8. The guitar solo was mesmerizing to me at the time, perfectly crafted. Since then, the band has always been floating in my top 10. Knowledgeable, in-depth discussion covering all Mark incarnations by the hosts, track by track. Definitely worth a listen for older DP fans or someone curious about the band. Learn about one of the greatest, more underappreciated, influential bands in rock music. 5 stars. So thank you, CH, another CH. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Oh, I think I
That's
might
all
know.
I had to add.
I think I might know what CH means now. Never mind. Okay. Something that gets said in the studio quite a bit if you're at least working with the kinds of bands I used to work with. Another 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from Scott Listener, although I suspect he might have a different last name. December 31st, New Year's Eve, dropping us a rating. Thank you. Great Deep Purple deep dive. This show makes my every Monday. Not only have I learned so much about my favorite band, I really thought I knew so much more, but I enjoy the opinions, conversations of the host. All I can say is encore.
Throwing a little Coverdale in there. It's
Yep.
awesome.
That's great. Rich Shaler on Facebook writes, great, in their kind of section where you can write like reviews of the page or whatever, says, great podcast. These are not experts flexing their knowledge or facts and trivia. It's two friends having a casual and entertaining discussion about all things Deep Purple related. It reminds me of hanging out and talking music with my friends. I consider myself a diehard Deep Purple fan, but these guys have opened my eyes up to things I never noticed and given me a fresh perspective on things I know by heart. That's awesome.
Nice.
Appreciate that. Some other things kind of closing out. Roger Glover posted his year-end note, which he does every year on his website. It's one of the only updates he does is kind of this annual kind of recap. So some stuff up there. I'll put a link in the show notes, kind of talking about how his year has been, what he's been working on, all that sort of stuff. So pretty cool. We've got I finally did it, and I made on Spotify what we talked about during the Butterfly Ball episodes, the Butterfly Ball DNA playlist with everything I could find on Spotify that kind of exemplifies all the artists where they were at right before they went in there. There's a lot of stuff I couldn't find, but if you're interested in looking at that, I'll have a link in the show notes to that too. Because my New Year's, really my only resolution, I don't do resolutions, but I was like, I need to use Spotify this year because everyone's using it. Everyone's like, oh, here's my top 10 and here's this and that. And I'm like, I don't even know what I listen to. So I'm going to try to, I'm resolving to break into this kind of new territory and go on Spotify instead of doing all MP3s and stuff.
Good for you. Good for you. Because if
Right.
if it wasn't for Spotify, I wouldn't know like my the top songs that I listened to last year, what I listened to repeat, what I listened to the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
And
There's so many
like
things.
most of the stuff I search for, I find it too. So it's
There's
really
a lot of stuff I
helpful.
couldn't find, but it was pretty obscure stuff talking about the
Well,
butterfly ball
yeah, I
stuff.
mean, the fact that you found as much as you did for Butterfly Ball, I'm sure is the fact it's even on Spotify is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like Butterfly Ball itself. So
yeah, totally. But yeah, I'm digging. There's some things about it that are a little weird. But yeah, I'm getting it. I'm getting into it. So we'll see what goes on with that.
welcome.
Thank you. It's funny because I looked, one of my friends texted me, was like, hey, send me your top listens for last year on Spotify. And I looked in my Spotify and I hadn't used it since 2016. So I was like, here's my top listens for 2016, but this is probably everything I listened to in 2016. So then Yuri laments, we had a long discussion on our new Deep Purple episode about kind of what makes a band, what's the breaking point for when you can't call a band the same band name anymore. And this guy Yuri Lementsev, wow, he posted an extremely lengthy, detailed comment, kind of a philosophical thing, probably 5 or 6 paragraphs here, going through like raising some questions that I hadn't really considered, and think it's too long to read, but he mentions there being a few an MIM, or a most important member. So like a member that you just can't ever afford to lose, or you can't call it the name. he mentions kind of a 50% ratio basically of original members, and at what point the breaking point is there. So it's really interesting. It's on our episode, the new Deep Purple episode, comments on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes, but a really cool breakdown of it. And then Jim Massa, who quotes on our YouTube frequently and is a great fountain of information, he posted that the management defined Deep Purple in the early 70s as having this 3 of the 5 original members kind of clause. And then later on, they refined it when they got back together in the 80s as being 5 original members and Mark II kind of being the definition of what Deep Purple is. So I didn't know that there were any sort of legal. He kind of goes into on the YouTube site too, kind of breaks down all of the legal things that he's come across about what makes the band the band. So I didn't know there was actually anything contractual in that. I thought it was just kind of more of a feeling or whatever, but interesting stuff to read. And then the last note before we carry on is you should hear a sound upgrade. And thanks to all of our patrons, we finally took some of the money in the kitty, and John over here got a new mic.
Yeah, so if I sound different, thank you, our patrons.
Yeah, so and
this is what you're paying for.
And if he doesn't, we might have just botched something in the recording, because this is kind of a test run here. We did a little bit of a hookup test the other day, but this is our first full run. So if it sounds slightly worse than last time, maybe that's because we had to ditch all the audio and go to the secondary feed. If it sounds the same, well, that stinks. And if it sounds better, which hopefully the test that John sent over sounded great, so we should see a big improvement.
Well, it better sound better, because my desk is getting very cluttered up over here with stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna need a better desk for that, or maybe we'll need some new patrons. We can get you a new desk. All right.
I love it. I love it. Do the other noise later when I'm not.
We'll do that during a boring.
Or just do it now. You know, I mean,
We'll be like when it's like a long, boring part of the orchestral thing. We'll be like, all right.
I'm truly 15. I can't, and I can't believe that I let the whole Dick Jurgens thing slip by me.
Dick Jurgens. Yeah, we got Rye from Sabbath Bloody Podcast mentioned a Dick Jurgens, and yeah, we.
Like, what did he say? Like, he's surprised that I didn't make a joke, and I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's like,
must have not been paying attention. But anyway.
All right. So before we move on, we do have something we have another sponsor, and we have to play a little commercial here. So today's episode is brought to you by this brand here.
Swear on Bibles in a 10-foot stack. Even bring George Washington back. It would be his first life. Don't say your diet when you taste like Dr. Pepper to me. Don't say your diet when you taste like Dr. Pepper. Don't.
All right, thank you so much. That was a little Diet Dr. Pepper, ad there. Thank you for Dr. Pepper for sponsoring the show.
So, do you want me to guess who that was on vocals?
Sure.
Lynn Turner.
Lynn Turner with the Dr. Pepper ad.
Cha-ching.
The guesses every week are going to be easier and easier as you find the pattern is they're all Lynn Turner.
Well, I mean, I knew it wasn't like Ian Gillan or anything, so it's. And I don't
that
know,
would be very distinctive too if you heard Ian Gillan belt it out. But yeah, but Lynn Turner's got the perfect voice for just like little doing those kind of great like commercial sounds. I never really realized. I've probably seen a bunch of these commercials and never realized it was him.
Well, I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, it's like he was in the bands that he was in, or what he was like the version of Rainbow and stuff like that were considered like, the most kind of like commercial, or I feel like he was usually hired or brought into something because he had a really kind of like mainstream rock type voice. So, it makes sense that he would do like commercial work and voiceovers.
Yeah, he does. He does have a great voice for that. I mean, it's great for his period. All right. I've got like all these Skype window's open. I don't know what's going on because I'm not even using Skype. Just close some of these out so we're gonna feel hiccups in the audio. All right. So it's this week. We're it's kind of a challenging listen. We're going into John Lord's Windows album, which we've referenced in the past before, and it's a very interesting recording. And it's going to be, like I said, it's a challenging thing to listen to. There's a lot going on, but it is very fascinating to me, this kind of piece by John Lord. So the personnel we've got here, we've got John Lord, obviously, who composed this and put this together with Eberhard Schoner, who was a German composer and conductor. And they put together this piece, which we'll probably kind of talk about a little more in depth during the piece because it's going to be pretty long. We're going to talk a little bit about it on all the instrumentation here is a lot of people we've talked about in depth. The only person we really haven't mentioned too much before is Peter York, who was a drummer, percussionist. He played with the Spencer Davis group, Hard in New York. He was on Wizards Convention. He did an album with Ian Paice with his band, the Pete York Percussion Band. Did a lot of stuff with Eddie Hardin. Hard in New York was a great band. Kind of think of them as the White Stripes of the 70s, because there was just two people in the band, a drummer. Instead of a drummer, guitar player, singer, it was a drummer, organ, sort of organ singer and piano and all sorts of stuff. But one of those bands, when I heard their stuff like a bunch and never realized it was just two guys, because there's so much going on. But on guitar, we've got Ray Fenwick. On vocals, we've got David Coverdale. On vocals and bass guitar, we've got Glenn Hughes. And then on vocal, piano, and organ, we've got Tony Ashton. So that's quite a lineup. And I think you'll see that the parts where all of them are playing together are pretty. And this is kind of similar to the concerto, in which you've got these long classical bits. You've got some, quite frankly, weird, whacked out stuff. You've got some stuff where the two combine, and you've got stuff where this band just jams it out. And that's quite a band right there. They do an incredible job. Of course, so this was done in 1970. What's that?
I was going to ask, are you going to be running the video or just the audio?
I thought we would just do the video, just to be able to check it out. And the audio feed, it won't make any difference. But it's an interesting thing to see. And if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can check it out. If you're just listening, it won't really make any difference, except you might hear us make comments about Eberhard Schoner's hair. So this was Eberhard Schoner. It was like I said, a composer and conductor. He did a lot of synth work. In the early 70s, he hadn't had a lot of credits yet. In 1971, he released Destruction of Harmony, which was like a synthesizer work that was based on Bach and Vivaldi. He went on to have a really lengthy career after this. The other people credited on the album are Gottfried Greiner on the cello, who does a solo. Only has 3 other credits on Discogs. The orchestra is the Orchestra of the Munich Chamber Opera. And then there's 2 soprano vocalists, Erminia Santi and Sigun von Osten. And both of them only have a few other credits on Windows, so they're probably just more part of ensembles and maybe didn't get individual credits. There's a solo trumpet credited to George Morrison, and a solo violin credited to Gunter Salber. So, additionally, engineering was by Kurt Lobach and Sebastian Schlant. Jorg, you can correct all my pronunciation if you're listening to this. I'm sure it's awful. Remastered. It was remastered in the, I think, the late 90s. I'm sorry, it was actually remastered very recently too, like a couple of years ago. It was recorded at Herkulesel München, which is a former royal palace of the Bavarian monarchs in the center of Munich. And it was recorded during the Eurovision presentation of Prix Jeunesse on Saturday, June 1st, 1974. And then they mixed it at good old Musicland Studios in Munich, probably right down the street, where they did the Stormbringer and Come Taste the Band, I believe, Pace Ashton Lord, all those. So that's it. There's really not a lot on the album itself about like what it, not a lot of background more than just that. So it's just some quotes from John Lord, which we'll get into later. The photography on the cover and inside was by Finn Costello and Didi Zill. We've covered, I think, both of them before. Didi Zill is a legendary German photographer, did tons of has a whole book of Deep Purple photography, actually, which is incredible. And Finn Costello has done tons of work for them. The layout was by Alexander Merch. Speaking of which, we should probably get the album art up there to look at. And I love this album art. It's just the most classic John Lord look that you can imagine. He's got the big aviator glasses, the big mustache going on,
the big hair,
and it's all kind of just black and white. And then in his sunglasses on one side, in his right sunglass, you see the orchestra at work, and in the left glass is the reflection of Eberhard Schoner and his incredible hair. Yeah, it's a great album cover. I think we should kind of keep track of how we're grading album covers, because I give this one pretty high marks because it's just great. Captures John Lord.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty basic, but I mean, it's being a Deep Purple fan, it's the most John Lordiest that John Lord has ever looked. So
yeah, that's when you tell me to imagine John Lord, this is what I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's his classic look.
Kind of look that carried him through much of the 70s and into the 80s probably.
And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty 70s looking album cover too. Very cool. Like I can picture like picking this up in the like secondhand store, like record shop, something like that, and it just being all worn and opening up the gatefold and stuff. So it's pretty neat looking.
Yep, definitely. I don't know where oh, there it is. All right.
Is there a gatefold?
The back cover features Eberhard Schoner there conducting, and then you've got the kind of principal player. You've got John Lord, Ray Fenwick, Glenn Hughes on the left. On the right, you've got Tony Ashton, you've got David Coverdale, and Peter York. And I love, if you look closely at the David Coverdale picture, it looks like the guy sitting down there, I don't know if he's like a trumpet or a trombone player or something. It looks like he's kind of like rolling his eyes, like, oh, kind of like that violinist who was like kind of smirking during Ritchie Blackmore's guitar solo at the concerto.
Yeah,
and he's kind of got that air about him. So on the back of the album, you can't really see it on this image, but it says continuo on Bach, and then Lord Schoner in parentheses. This piece is a realization of a well-known incomplete fugue by Bach, which was based on a scale using the notes representing his own name. In English notation, these would be B flat, A, C, and B sharp. It's intended to represent a sort of battle over who shall play what. Bach himself died before being able to finish this fugue. I hope he approves of the way we finished it for him. That's John Lord speaking. And then it goes on to say about Window, the first movement. It says Window, first movement Renga. From the back, another quote by John Lord. During the 14th century in the Far East, a form of chain poetry was developed called Renga. This involves a group of poets co-writing a poem. They would lock themselves away and writing each verse in turn, continue until the finished product emerged. The idea for Window was borrowed from this Renga chain poetry. Indeed, the words of the first and third movements are taken from a contemporary Renga. Eberhard Schoner and myself worked on the idea during the first part of this year after being asked to perform a concert for the 1974 Prix Jeunesse in Munich. The first movement was then written by Eberhard and the last movement by myself. The central section is then with a few changes from the vocal movement of my own Gemini suite, which was written and recorded in 1971. So a lot going on there. And you can see why this is going to be, when you just hear the concept for how this album was developed, you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be some avant-garde shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a gatefold there. You've got like the orchestra on one side and the kind of band on one side. You've got Lord and Ashton sitting side by side, Lord at the organ and Ashton at the piano. Then you can see Hughes and Coverdale standing side by side at the left, the very end of Pete York on the left as well. I'm sorry, Ray Fenwick on the end, and then Pete York kind of in the center by John Lord's organ. And we've got the record itself. And that's it. That's Windows. The confusing part about this too is that the song is called Window on the album, but the album's called Windows. So I'm sure I'll mess that up 5 or 6 more times. All right. So that's all I got. Should we jump into this?
Yeah, without further ado, Windows.
All right, here we go. Let's start off with a little Windows. Everyone gathered in the hall here. Eberhard Schoner's like walking in really late, like he almost missed the show. He just comes running in like, oh, we were supposed to start 15 minutes ago.
Oh, Eberhard.
Oh man, let me know if I need to. Well, there's nothing going on now, but let me know if I need to crank up the some bored-looking German people. I recognize this piece of music.
Yeah, the video is give it a second. Yeah, the video is lagging for me a little bit.
Is it? That there's like their intro music, like Ozzy playing O Fortuna or something.
That's a cool opening.
It's John Lord at the Hammond organ.
Well, he is like all decked out.
Maximum, yeah. He's got the shirt unbuttoned all the way down to the navel.
John Lord.
Oh, he's maximum John Lord. There he is.
I like how they faded the orchestra into his organ.
Ray Fenwick. Pete York. Tony Ashton. David Coverdale.
Coverdale comes out with the thumbs up. He always says that.
So irreverent.
Das Orchester der Münchner Kammeroper. Dirigent
Ray Fenwick's suit, I think, is incredible. It's a big yellow suit. He looks like a big banana holding a guitar. Eberhard Schoner must have been very young during this. He looks like a baby. Ah, he was actually way older than he looks. Oh, he's 36. Still not that old. I think Eberhard Schoner's hair is like a cartoon. There's like, reminds me of like a Simpsons character or something. Like, even by cartoon standards, that hair would be like pretty incredible. One of the interesting things is that this unfinished fugue is based on Bach's name, like B-A-C-H, which I didn't realize that some notation uses the note H to represent B sharp.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I remember seeing an ad for like a music poster saying, like, it was like a music theory poster, like, you should order this poster, and I was like, it's got the note H on it, like, this poster is nonsense. then I learned I learned that it's in fact considered by some a music note. Like a nice little groove by the band here. Pete York is incredible. He's got his chest hair fluffed up to the top. He's got a big gold medallion around his neck.
It's like Ron Jeremy playing the drums over there or something.
Hughes and Coverdale are all cozy together on the side there, and Glenn's just laying down a nice bass line. So it's similar to the concerto in that you've got this little back and forth give and take going between the orchestra, but it seems like a little bit more immediate when the band comes in.
It also feels a lot more relaxed.
Yes. Glenn Hughes looks very relaxed. It's like they were having a contest to see who could unbutton their shirt the lowest, but still have it buttoned.
The hairy navel contest of 1974.
And the winner is, I think John might be winning. Wasting no time to get into a little drum business here. Yeah, Pete York working together with the timpani player.
So the timpani guy looks annoyed. Like, he keeps looking back like, shut up, trying to play.
It was the same thing during the concerto, where it was just like, I got 2 drums, you got a whole set. Here we go with our solo violinist. This must be Gunther Salber.
Oh, really dissident type stuff going on here.
John Lord's doing that kind of little percussive organ in the background. Can't help but wonder what was going on. I think this group of musicians was probably a little more accepting of this than the group in '69. It makes you wonder what they actually thought of this.
Well, I mean, also, the musicians all look like they're the same age as the band, too.
Sure. We had that Martin Short or Forrest Gump looking guy in timpani in the concerto, and he looked like he was 18.
Yeah. It already seems like a little, or a lot less, I guess, stuffy than concerto.
Yes.
But you feel like John Lord probably had a lot more time to put this together.
And then now you've got a little solo, like a little trumpet solo going on here with this like rockin' music. Trumpet player is something else.
Yeah, this is totally a different vibe than concerto. I kind of dig it. It's very early mid-70s.
Yeah.
Lord's rocking out. He's like, yeah, baby.
You wonder if how is this an improvised solo? It looks like he's reading music at some point, but it sounds improvised. Is that like pizzicato or is that John Lord on? cello player is like doing weird things with his cello. He's just like rubbing the bow all over it.
He's
It
like,
looks like he doesn't know how to play the cello. He's like, oh
I was
man,
gonna say,
they're
it looks like
gonna... my game is
my
almost
cover's
up.
blown. Well, it looked like he was doing kind of a Ritchie Blackmore deal there. He was like, you know, taking it. He was like, you know, goofing around with it and stuff. And
Yeah, he's like he's bowing the strings like underneath the, I guess the bridge is, I don't know what you call it on a cello. It's really interesting because you've got all these long moments where you just see Tony Ashton just sitting around, Glenn Hughes and Coverdale and Fenwick all in the little box over there just hanging out. It's like a cameraman like trying to make his way through the orchestra. That guy's wearing shades. That violin player.
that's pretty awesome.
Corey Hart over there on violin. And
Although
little
back
Lord
then I could've-
Fauntleroy on the right. He's got the...
Nice hair. Got the Dutch boy haircut.
And Tony Ashton's wearing like what could best be described as like a traditional like golf hat. You know, those like floppy knitted hats.
Looks like a Rastafarian beret. So far, this is like
One of the ones you buy in Jamaica that have the dreadlocks already attached to them, but he cut the dreads out.
It would have been funnier if he left them in.
I don't think they had those back in the 70s, but I could be wrong.
I wonder if the guy with the shades was trying to be cool or if he was actually blind, because I feel like back then, like you would only wear shades inside if you had like a vision impairment. Or if you were David Coverdale.
Even Coverdale's not wearing shades. You could actually rewrite. You could possibly be blind. He looks kind of like Graham Bonnet, the shades wearing guy. This is part of like the Eurovision thing. Like, I don't know much. I know a little bit about it, like the Eurovision Song Contest. So I don't know how this would have fit into it, or if they were doing the song contest back then. I'm sure some of our European listeners are probably yelling at us by now. Stupid Americans! We don't know anything about the Eurovision.
Well, that's us.
Stupid Americans?
Yeah.
I'm by no means a Bach expert, but this doesn't sound like... I guess most of the fugues I've heard are just played on like piano or whatever, so this sounds different to me. This part sounds a little more like a traditional Bach fugue. What John's
I mean, you know that John Lord definitely reinterpreted it.
Yes, yeah. But this part sounds like a standard... What John Lord is playing on the organ right now sounds like a standard Bach fugue. Pete York has a glorious mustache. It looks like Fenwick's playing, but I don't hear anything really. It's kind of mystifying to me how you can make sense of all of this and just how everyone keeps it together. Like, how do you rehearse this?
I don't know. I have a problem. I mean, it's good. I have a problem following it. Like, I don't know what just happened. Like, I can't be like, oh, I like that part earlier. I couldn't even reference it.
Yeah, you know the part where they did that thing? It was awesome.
Oh, yeah, that part. But yeah, I mean, you just got to respect all these guys.
And it's kind of got that thing.
This is another...
Well, I was gonna say it's got that thing similar to the concerto, where it's just kind of like a fun thing to watch, a fun thing to listen to, but it's not gonna be your driving to work, I'm gonna pop on Windows. But it is really fascinating.
Windows.
Yeah. Roll down the windows and blast Windows. First real day of summer, put the top down.
And later on, like, John Lord could have done a sequel like years later and called it like Windows XP or something.
I saw a few jokes of that, like about he was well ahead of Gates. They call it Windows 74. Glenn Hughes and Fenwick are standing up.
They're like, now it's our time to shine, baby.
Tony Ashton's the only one. Tony Ashton's actually buttoned up all the way to the neck, and he's got an ascot on.
See, I think this is just another one of these things where you see all the musicians involved that, like, Coverdale, Hughes, John Lord, or in, like, popular bands later, or somewhat popular, and people just, wouldn't you said that they were in this, and you'd just be like, they'd be like, holy crap, I didn't know this is where they came from. Like, the one I always think about is Coverdale, because he's the most associated with our generation as like almost like a one-hit wonder type of guy, and nobody even knows the history this guy has. Like, not taking a big part in it, but he was part of this.
And I had posted something about Windows a while back on Twitter, and Coverdale responded really early and was like, it was a wonderful evening. And it's just great that he has like fond memories to this, because you almost, looking at this, you're like, did they have to drag him to this?
Well, because you can tell that timpani guy is like serious.
Oh, yeah, that timpani guy's not messing
like,
around.
He means
kind of looks like
he
looks like the Micro Machines guy. This is awesome.
Well, this is building up.
It sounds like Stormbringer.
Nice.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I love how they're doing that dueling organ trumpet solo earlier. It's just coming into complete chaos, but it works really well. Wow. So,
oof, nice.
And Abraham Schoner just runs off stage as fast as he ran on.
He's like, I gotta get out of here. I need a rest.
This is like one of those sitcoms where the guy has like 2 dates and he's going back and forth between the two. He's like conducting something across the street.
And I gotta say, the video and the audio are both like way off for me now.
All right, I'll reshare it. See, that should usually fix it. It's hard to tell if it's synced back up yet, but oh, he's back. He's back on stage. That was quick. 2 sopranos have taken the stage that we discussed earlier.
And it's still really choppy, but I feel like I'm just gonna have to watch the whole thing like this. What the hell?
Yeah, then this is where it gets really out there. So there's like a bunch of guys in the background that seem to be like hitting a wine rack with spoons. Now it gets in this nice little groove. Tony Ashton. It's kind of like more like the soulful bluesy version of the concerto.
Tony Ashton's face.
Tony Ashton makes the best facial expressions. He's like stabbing at the piano like with one hand, and he's standing like several paces back. he's like swirling his hand around and like hitting chords in the most exaggerated way possible.
He's like, it's time for me to get into it.
It's Tony Ashton's element right here. Fenwick bringing out some nice guitar. Funny, it's almost like you expect the vocals to come in there and someone talk about losing their baby or something, but then it just, boom, it kicks you back into this. Pete York is making. He looks like he's smelled something bad. He looks like he's holding his. Pete York looks like he's holding his breath.
Classic little John Lord run there.
Oh, it's so good. Hear Tony Ashton off mic. He's got such amazing rhythm when he plays too.
Mm-hmm.
It's very. You can tell when they're classically trained because human mouths don't normally make shapes like that. Guy playing the. I don't even know what he was playing.
Glenn Hughes is probably back there going, I could sing that. It'd be funny if he came with a couple of whoop, whoop in the background. Boy, this is definitely a visual episode. Like, this is a great watch.
Yeah!
This is a very entertaining watch.
It's here's Coverdale.
There he is. Yeah.
Holding his lyrics sheet.
Oh, Coverdale. He's like, it's fine. I'll just hold the lyric sheet. Nobody will care. He's killing it.
Always. I mean, he's keeping with the long tradition of Deep Purple lead singers having the lyrics handy during one of these performances. It's got to be one of the most avant-garde things Coverdale's ever been involved with.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of blown away by this.
Still, this is the kind of thing, like, when I think back to when I first saw the concerto with you, just like hanging out in your basement, like, I would love to just have I would say have a group of friends over. It would have to be just you, because I don't think anyone else would watch this with me. But if there was a group of like-minded, Deep Purple related people or music people that would want to sit down and watch this, have a few drinks, have a nice little spread, and just watch this with beautiful sound, it would be so great.
Well, we'll do that one day.
Someday.
For real. Because that sounds like a great time. I mean, you know, watching like David Coverdale, like basically doing a duet with Edith Bunker over here.
And now we've got...
What the hell is going on?
Now there's a guy reciting poetry in German.
Die Schwerkraft der Geschwindigkeit. Zur Hälfte war das
He must be the
Wasser
German
trüb,
Vincent
zur
Price.
Hälfte. Auch die Luft. Ein schwarzer Ring stach ins Wasser und die Nacht war eine Seehälfte.
Edith Bunker.
Und die Liebe ein Befehl.
It's one hell of a widow's peak he's got going on there.
Durch jeden liegt klar der Weg.
This guy's probably 10 years younger than me.
Des Weins, des Steins.
I mean, not now, but...
Durch die Orte,
Well, yeah.
die Jahre sind.
No, but it's impossible to look at anybody in these videos and think that they're like... They're all younger than we are now, but they still all look older than us.
Yeah, we're probably older than anyone on this stage right now, but they all look so much older than we do. I love that guy had 2 microphones. So yeah, there's a bunch of bottles of wine
bottles
in a wine rack, and they've just got spoons, like literally spoons, and they're just hitting the wine bottles. Like, it really doesn't get much more out there as far as Deep Purple related content than this, I don't think.
Yeah, I thought that like some of the Ian Gillan stuff was crazy.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, this is like, yeah, you could tell. I mean, you can't. I don't know. I really feel like you can't do this anymore.
No, like who would? This
Or
was
you
on,
don't see a lot of people doing this.
This was on TV. Like on just regular television. Who would put this on television?
All right,
Coverdale.
I can't even take this right now.
Where's the microphone in relation to her? She's got a powerful voice.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Her eyes are like bugging out.
She's selling it with her facial expressions. Those women are probably the same age too. That just that haircut is makes her look like a bunker, like you said.
Oh, Archie.
Oh, Coverdale.
Oh, Coverdale.
What do you think the odds are that Coverdale left with the blonde?
10 out of 10.
It'd be stupid to take a bet against that.
But I'm surprised he didn't go over and like hit on her on stage before their parts came up. camera pans over and he's just leaning over like, hey, babe.
That's a really unusual guitar that Fenwick's playing.
It looks like I can't remember the name of it. Is it like what are those really like now like retro-y like surf kind of guitars? Was it called like a Jaguar or something like that? Or you know what I mean?
Is it a Fender Jaguar?
I don't know.
Look. Yeah, it's similar to a Fender Jaguar, but it's got that thing in the
yeah. I mean it. Yeah, it looks like it.
I think Hughes is warming up here. It's like, take that, Ian Gillan. Try to hit that note. I think Hughes probably still could, but...
When are you singing this at all?
He does. Hughes looks like he's got ants in his pants. When they cut to him, he's like, oh. I think we know why, but he's just like, oh man.
Like, I can't hit these notes, but I'm gonna try, damn it. Or actually, at the time, he's probably like, all that coke made him think like, I can out-sing these bitches. I'll break a glass with my voice.
Oh man. Let's share it again here.
Stunde der Fernsehspätnachrichten des
So they hit that like little cue right on time, right before the German guy comes back on.
Die Tonbandkassette mit den Stimmen der Kinder. Eine zerstreute Liebkosung.
Coverdale's reading off lyrics, but this guy isn't. He's got this all memorized.
Of course he does.
Saat. Rousseau. Sexuelle Utopien. Mit einem Hai.
Georg, if you're listening, we need to know what this guy's talking about.
Man kann mit einem Elefanten sich nicht paaren. Auf Utopien, die zerstückt.
Jorg usually has a really cool way of abridging something. He'd be like, basically he's talking about this. You know, he's got a really good way of summarizing it.
I feel like this is a lot to summarize.
I like what he's like. I was like, what does this review say, Jorg? He's like, it sounds like he says that Glenn Hughes sounds like a cat in heat. No, a love hungry cat, he said.
It's a good way to describe Coverdale, too.
Yeah, just not the sound of his voice particularly, but maybe his actions.
I'm sorry, I can't get over when he was singing with one of the sopranos. She's like, and he's like, baby, baby. I'm like,
yes,
I couldn't handle that.
The position of the two is like incredible. Like this super well trained operatic voice, like doing vocal acrobatics, the likes of which I've rarely heard in my life. And then Coverdale's just doing a standard
Coverdale thing.
Amazing Coverdale singing.
Like, I mean, even to me, that just blows me away, you know? Like the most un-Coverdale thing I've ever heard. Or by any of these people. I mean, I haven't really paid much attention to this, so I didn't even know that like Coverdale and Hughes were involved in this.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes it even more interesting, you know, to me that they did something that was like this. I mean, knowing their history, I knew that they would, because they would all work together, but
it's such an amazing collection of people, and it's something that I'll be honest, this is probably my first time listening to things straight through. I've heard probably all of it in bits and pieces over the years, and I love like going to the Coverdale and Hughes parts and listening to those and the band jams, but overall, I mean, I think it's extremely interesting, if nothing else.
I mean, it's impressive too, because I mean, yeah, I mean, they're not everybody up there isn't playing all at the same time, but it's pretty much like one piece of music, like all strung together.
And now Eberhard Schoner is like crouched down in front of this old school, like West Coast synthesizer. I don't know if it's like a buchla or something, but he's just twisting knobs. There's a bunch of patch cables all around. And he's got this background in synth work. But he was like underneath the thing, almost tweaking things. And John Lord's moved over onto a different synth too that looks like it might be like a, I don't know, I'm not very well versed, but maybe like a buchla or something. That guy on the right is kind of unkempt for a chamber orchestra guy. He's got very long hair and a big shaggy beard.
He looks like a caveman.
The guy on the left is more like clean cut, what you'd expect. It's like Robert and Thag on first and second violins.
It looks like after he's done over here, he's just going to go to the biker bar across the street, knock back a few.
Yeah, he's just going to take off his suit jacket and put on a leather jacket and he'll blend right in. He's big man.
He's got his Hell's Angel t-shirt on under there. There's another guy. There's another guy with sunglasses on over there. You see him?
Yeah, there was a trombone player too, so there's quite a few people. I can't believe all those people were blind. Maybe they were just cool. I don't know. Maybe they're blind, maybe they're cool, maybe they're blind and cool. I don't know.
Well, a serious thought is like maybe the lighting there was pretty bright, and where they were sitting, they were more comfortable wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Like you see that Chris Farley looking guy? Sunglasses.
So I'm kind of lost as to, I think we're in the second part of the window. I think. There's Hughes. Yeah, I think this is the part from Gemini Suite. Sounds like it's off the first Trapeze album. You don't often hear him sing like this.
It's really good.
Charity, human kindness, family, human blindness, open mind, lend a helping hand, fight for peace, make love not war. What are we fighting
was really good.
Yeah, that was off of that's the Gemini Suite, which I think is Tony Ashton and Yvonne Elliman sing that on Gemini Suite. Oh, Tony Ashton's standing up. Is he either looking for the restroom or is he about to sing?
It could be either one.
So Tony Ashton, I think, is going to sing his part, and Glenn Hughes sung the Yvonne Elliman part.
He's actually really good on this.
You must know where you're going.
That's great.
What's will never ever be the same. It doesn't mean we're not to blame. Stand up and shout your name. Good old change. We'll sit down on your gully old days. We're only going to say our place. And not your heads will reach for the waves. So float away. And there's no crime in humanity. It's a sin to delay. You've got to know where you're going.
It was really cool.
Hughes and Coverdale singing together.
Oh, beautiful. I always love that.
So that's the end of the second section of Window. But wow, what a great conclusion.
Yeah, jeez.
That trade-off between Ashton and Coverdale doing that kind of back and forth, and then Hughes and Coverdale coming in unison is wow.
Yeah, and you know that I'm not the biggest fan of Ashton, his voice, I mean, but like I think he was really good on this.
Well, I think you don't like his style a lot of the time, but when he sings like that, when he sings, he's great.
Yeah. I mean, it was great to hear Coverdale and Hughes like singing together again.
Oh yeah.
It just adds another layer of it too. You know, I didn't even realize like, you know, that they had that history together as well.
Now Pete York is joined by the timpani player. The guy who was normally playing the wine bottles, he's moved on to some other percussion instrument. He's playing the snare.
This is really cool stuff.
That guy over on the right looks like he would be a rock drummer. That guy.
Yeah.
The kind of guy, he looks like really young, like he could just start growing facial hair, so he's going for it.
He does.
And it's funny because there's no... Man, they're tight. You keep expecting to hear some sort of audience reaction, but everyone's silent. Maybe they were just instructed to be silent because they were recording it. violin just like really roll his eyes. Like, really annoyed. Now it's getting really wacky.
Oh boy.
Here come the sisters.
The sisters. The only thing that could make this weirder is they brought in a theremin and they were playing it behind them too, going behind them.
They sound like theremins.
That's what made me think of it. Or if they just didn't have them, if they had a theremin instead.
Two people playing theremins instead. That violin player looks like Malice, and the woman's got like her fingers in her ears.
Covering her. There's a lady covering her friggin' ears. What the hell?
She's leaning over to her husband. What the hell did you drag me to?
You call this a night out, you son of a bitch?
We could have just gone out for schnitzel, but we had to come to this.
Oh, please.
This is great.
You and I have already established this would be a great night out for us.
Oh, yeah. We'd be the only people, like, pre-gaming it in the parking lot. Woo! About to see some weird-ass stuff.
Yeah!
Coverdale's still got the boom. Coverdale's got the boom stand. He loves to have that boom stand.
Does he? I didn't even notice.
He's like the only non-instrument playing singer I've ever seen use a boom.
Well, he likes to rest his hand on it like that.
Yeah. So that's just kind of some improv between Coverdale and Ashton.
If he picks up that mic stand and starts twirling it around and shoving it into his crotch, I'll die.
I could just have this as the soundtrack to my life. Just a little groove with Coverdale and Ashton ad-libbing over it. Coverdale like, yeah, yeah. And Ashton's like, doobie doobie doo. It's like, yeah, that's all I need in my life.
You could probably just drop that into some editing software and put it on a loop, and that could be the soundtrack to your life.
Might have to do that. So now, John Lord's stolen the piano from Ashton. Ashton's jumped on the organ. Hughes is taking over. Oh,
Dieser Satz in
some German poetry.
Der sich auf sein sprachloses Ende zubewegt, mit Zitatenbildern, Wortgestrüpp, Selbstgespräche voll Kritik. Diese Banderillo-Reihe, dieser Schlund schluckt unentwegt, dieser
So I think on the video the vocal mix is a little low. I think it's a little better on the album.
Impression d'Afrique. Und da ich mich verändert habe,
Coverdale, one mic. Hughes, one mic. Ashton, one mic. This guy, two mics.
in der Kollektivierung der Dichtung,
Two nice
mit einem
mics,
bewussten
too.
Illusionisten und so weiter.
The
Und
two
alles am
nicest
selben
ones.
Tisch. Heute Pop-Poet
Right.
in dieser Krypta durch dieses Wortspiel. Ich bin 4 Stimmen geworden, die einen gemeinsamen Gegenstand einkreisen, ein Ich bestimmend, verloren in einer Spirale von Ichs einen Namen gebend. Und die Spirale entfaltet sich verleugnet sich und wieder rufend sich ruft sie sich. Sonne, die sich krümmt, im Mittelpunkt der Achse Vibration, die birst Schädel, Gestirn, vom Osten zum Westen, zum Süden, zum Norden, darüber, darunter fließen die Sprachen dahin.
Narration got a little melodic there.
Yeah. I'm trying to find some sort of translation for it, but I'm not coming up with any luck. Big drum. Just a giant bass drum? What is that guy playing? Eberhard Schoner's conducting style is like, it looks like he's telling, stop, shh, shh.
It's a little out there.
You were supposed to stop 16 bars ago. Pete York is over there frying eggs.
Really,
he's moved to the brushes
anybody
now.
really cares when they were supposed to stop.
And that's the weird thing about this whole thing. Sounds so random and like crazy, but think about what had to be done to get everyone to know what to do when to do it. Because while it sounds chaotic, it's very well put together, but
Oh yeah.
you couldn't just put all these people on stage and say do whatever. It would be a mess, but somehow this all fits together.
I'm sure there was some improvisation or room for it, but not,
Sure.
you know.
But
Probably
much like
not
the
here.
concerto, there's these parts where everyone comes in this perfect unison, and you're like, how? How did you know to do that? Pete York gets a lot of time to show off on this. When did he move back from the brushes to the sticks? Like, that was pretty seamless. John Lord playing a nice little piano part here. Kind of like a Dave Brubeck feel to it.
Classic.
Really nice.
John Lord.
That was like some really like nice melodic little piece there.
Now the whole orchestra's picked up on that little part he did.
All the trumpets have mutes in them now. Never understand how conducting works. It's clearly extremely important, but I see everyone's eyes fixed on him. Like, oh, John Lord's back on the organ. Wow. Jesus. Oh, that big, tall, lanky guy's got his own drum set back there. Wow. Eberhard Schoner's shaking all the hands. The first cello, the first violin.
Wow.
And the
And
credits
that's it.
roll. That's it.
Rock meets classic.
Yeah. Schoner and Lord shaking hands. Fenwick getting in on the action. Coverdale's making his way over to the blonde soprano. Not really. I wish that was the case. A woman presents John Lord with a big bouquet of flowers. Eberhard Schoner gives it to one of the cellists, and she looks genuinely surprised.
Oh, me?
She's like, I thought no one was supposed to know. Okay, I never mind. Glenn Hughes wins. His shirt is unbuttoned all the way down to his crotch. Yet somehow still buttoned. I don't understand what. Or is that not even a button shirt? Maybe it's just like a shirt.
No, it's just there's no front to it.
Oh, that must be what it is. Wow.
Wow, that was good.
That was highly entertaining.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I didn't think that we would be as visually entertained by it.
yeah,
It
but
was really good.
audio-wise, video-wise, it's very entertaining. I highly recommend you. It's all over YouTube. You can find all the bits and pieces of this and full performances of it on YouTube. I was fortunate enough to reach out to Jorg, and he, of course, sent me a higher quality video of it, which he was like, here's what I have. He's like, I think pretty much everything on YouTube comes from my recording of it. I don't know where he got it from, but but yeah, great stuff. I don't know. Do we even rank that? Do we even rate this? Or we I mean, I think we probably should to be consistent, but it's kind of a, let me open up my rankings here. It was very, I guess we could go after the fact to go through the different pieces, but
I wouldn't even know where to begin.
yeah.
I mean, I guess we could rate the album as a whole.
Well, you've got that first part, which was all the instrumental, the fugue part. The second part was when the German poetry started. So that would be window first movement. The second movement is with the Coverdale, Ashton, Hughes vocals all going on, and then the last part is that like that whole motif that kind of wrapped it up.
Yeah.
As far as I understand it.
All right. So let's say let's say 3, 3, 4, 3.5.
Yeah, I
You know,
think I'm in 100% agreement with you on that one. I
I'm
feel like
just
the
I'm
first,
just kind of guessing. Yeah.
again, just like the concerto, it's a hard one to rank and or to rate, and it's very much like I don't want it to sound insulting, but it's like a novelty. And it's something
Yeah.
that's really fun to watch and fun to listen to, but it's not something you're going to listen to every day. And like
Right.
I feel like that fugue part was really interesting. The beginning renga part was really interesting. That kind of gets into concerto territory with the threes. The part with Coverdale and Hughes and all them going back and forth, which is kind of lifted partially from the Gemini suite, very, very entertaining. And then the last part musically was a little bit more interesting than those first two parts. That's my review anyway.
I mean, and I wouldn't say that I give it like a lower rating, even based on like all the weird stuff that was going on. Like I really dug it. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah. Yep. It was.
So like I liked it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So overall, the combined rating, I think it's 6.75 open windows.
There you go.
So
But yeah, but again, it's hard to like rank that on the same playing field as whatever any other album. Like say like, oh,
come
that
taste the
versus
band,
Made in Japan or versus Machine Head. It's because it's such a
sure.
novelty. It's something you'd want to sit down and listen to, specially, or something to watch with undivided attention, not something you're gonna put on in the background.
Yeah, I think something like this or the concerto, like you said, it's not something that um you would necessarily put on one track and listen to it while you're driving or something like that, but you would want to put on the video and make a night out of it, like you said, like get in front of the fire and have like a pop open the bottle of Gewürztraminer and have some hard cheeses. Trying to think of something German, Riesling.
Yeah. Gewürztraminer, I think, is a good one.
But,
I like Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, so do I. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's good, but in a different way. You have to look at it. You have to take it for what it's worth, and it's like you said, it's not a listen like Burn or Stormbringer or something like that. But it's definitely cool to have the same guys involved.
I think it would be great if I had anyone in the world other than you that I could call for this. I would get some Limburger and some Gewürztraminer. I'd fry up some schnitzel in my brand new stove that I got installed today, and I would and have a viewing party for this, and it would be great. But I can't think of anyone I could invite to it. Although people would come for the food, I think. If I was like, hey guys, I'm making schnitzel and spätzle and all that, people would be like, oh cool, and they come over, and then I'd be playing this and be like, oh, all right, well, we're gonna go hang over where the food is.
Well, the next time we're in the same state, we'll have to make that put it then on the to-do list.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that's Windows. A very we've talked about it for a while. One other thing that John Lord says on the album is, this is a live recording. As with all such recordings, no possibility exists to go back and do again any part that might have gone wrong. And to carry this through, we subsequently made no overdubs and used what was on the tape. We felt that the very exciting atmosphere of the concert was best preserved this way, John Lord. And I'd agree. I think this has more of an energy than the concerto did. If we're going to compare it against that, because that's the most like thing to compare it to, other than say Gemini Suite, which we have somehow skipped over. But it's got a great energy to it, a great feeling, and more so, I think, than the concerto, which I also really enjoy.
Well, I mean, you figure that, like, first of all, John Lord had a lot more time to work on this, and it wasn't his first composition, like, or big one like that. And number three, and I think it was probably true, is like probably everybody there wanted to be doing it.
You mean, what you mean to say is Ritchie wasn't there? Although Ian Gillan wasn't that into it either. you know,
Exactly. Like I
Gillan
think
was
like
just
most
kind
of
of
the
like
band was
whatever.
kind of like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing that? I thought we were a rock band, you know? And even though it still came out good, like the general tone of it was very relaxed. Plus it had more of that early leading into the mid 70s like feel. Like
Yeah.
everybody, like, I mean, you know, just looking at everybody, like everybody's hair was wild, the shirts were unbuttoned. Tony Ashton was like, you know, and
Well, instead of having like a more like a psychedelic late
yeah, the
60s
whole
thing, it
energy of
had
it
more of a
was
mid
more,
70s kind of
yeah, which
groove to it.
yeah, which to me I think is like a groove. Like I think when you're in the mid to late 60s, it's psychedelic, and even into like 1970. And then when you're like mid 70s, like 74, 75, that's when you start to get into the more like funky, um, relaxed, like laid back, whatever that 70s vibe was. And I mean, a lot of it was like, you know, personified too. And if like you look at the way that everybody was dressed and the way that they came out and they were like all just kind of like freewheeling, you know, it was a lot less psychedelic stuff, which I mean resonates with me a lot more than, you know, like the 60s, like this kind of thing. I like
Yeah, I
that a lot
agree
better.
100%. Great stuff.
Mm.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, I like it. I like it a lot. Like I tried to give it a listen prior to the show, but it was difficult. Just
It's
to
challenging. I mean,
listen.
it's one of those
So
things. It's like the concerto. It's a challenge to listen to it. It's not like you're not just gonna.
yeah,
It's not like throwing on. Oh, we're going to do the Ian Gillan band album. Let's throw that on. You know, I can listen to it, no problem. But
right.
you can't like. I mean, you can, but you listen to this while you're driving. And you're like, wait, what? What am I listening to?
Yeah, so really no prep, no show prep or anything like that. But I mean, I don't necessarily think that I need to for everything. So it was like very enjoyable to watch with you, much more so because we get to comment on everything from the little musical interludes to like, you know, the faces everybody was making and
Yeah,
whatever. So
hopefully everyone can get something out of that because I know sometimes our more visual episodes lose a few of our listeners, and we don't intend to do that. Um, but hopefully you can get
yeah,
something
but
out
I
of the
can't help it.
out of the audio part of it. So
Hmm.
cool. Okay. So moving on, we've got we've got in the news some sad news here. We lost another legend here, which is Nick Blagona, who did a lot of audio engineering with Roger Glover, with Rainbow, with Deep Purple. Passed away as of this recording a few days ago. Roger Glover wrote a very touching tribute to him on his website. So that's like 2 things from Roger Glover on his website within a week. That's rare.
That's big
He
news.
says he was the house engineer at Le Studio in Morin Heights when, in the winter of 1981, Rainbow started recording Straight Between the Eyes, which is your favorite album cover of all time. As the producer, I spent a lot of time with him sitting at the SSL desk, drinking endless cups of coffee and playing Battleship late into the night. Battleship, huh? It says Battleships. Maybe that's a different game? I don't know. One day, he saw a folder of my lyrics and poems and suggested that I do a solo album, offering me 4 days of free studio time as an incentive. After the album was released, we went on tour. He came to see us in Toronto and challenged me about the solo album again. So when the tour was over, I traveled to Morin Heights with Colin Hart and started recording what would end up as Mask. I had no band, just a couple of guitars, a drum machine, synthesizer, sequencer, and some percussion instruments. So Nick introduced me to Jean Roussel, keyboards, and Joe Jammer, guitar. Those 4 days whetted my appetite. Nick and I went on to complete the album in New York City. One memorable moments when he introduced me to the wonderful Canadian singer Kate McGarrigle, who flew down to do some singers. Do you know Kate McGarrigle?
No.
She's Rufus Wainwright's mother. And great singer. So he was a lovely man, full of wisdom, liked to enjoy himself, and a good listener. He had good ears. I'm lucky and privileged to have had him in my life. So the picture of Mr. Belagona and at a very old school mixing board. And there's a picture of him with Roger Glover. Roger Glover wearing I don't even know, what do you call that hat that Roger Glover's wearing?
I don't know, the hat that my grandmother wears to the beach. It's like a straw hat.
This is probably like early 90s because that Macintosh in the background looks like very early Macintosh.
Yeah, it's like a straw hat.
Yeah, it looks like,
deal.
yeah, like you said, like something you'd wear to the beach. And based on what Blagona's wearing there in the background, they must have been pretty close to a beach.
No, I said something my grandma wore to the beach.
You, I said you in general, not like you personally. But
Well, I probably would wear that hat,
yeah, well,
just to be fair.
but Mask is an interesting album that I don't want to say I wrote it off, but I got it back in the early 90s when we were really getting into this stuff, and I listened to it a couple times and I was just like, and then I did listen to it recently and I'm like, well, that's when you listen to it now. This was I think it came out, I want to say 84 or something. It's very
Yeah.
to me it sounds like Duran Duran. Like imagine Roger Glover, and Roger Glover I think does all the vocals on it, so it's very interesting. It's not like Roger Glover is a very capable singer, but he's not like a Gillan or a Hughes or anything. But it's very interesting, and I think it's like a very it's like an early 80s pop album, and it's really cool. I look forward to doing that one day.
That actually makes me want to listen to it.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Get some prep work done. We'll do it whenever we get to it. When did Mask come out? I want to say 84, but that's when Perfect Strangers came out. So that seems maybe it was later than that. 84. Okay, June 18th.
Yeah, so
84.
maybe he was working on it prior to the reunion and they released at the same time, or
it could be. Well, yeah, you mentioned Straight Between the Eyes, so yeah, maybe it just kind of came out. It just ended up coming out right before Perfect Strangers, or I don't know exactly when Perfect Strangers came out in 84, but off the top. All right. And then with that, we've got our Deep Purple history. So when this episode comes out, February 3rd through February 9th will be the history going on that week. And to kick it off, one of our all-time favorites and highest ranked album, White Snake, was released by David Coverdale.
Snake.
February 9th, 1977. Woo.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible.
Wow, look at that. And that was I was just about 1 year old.
Just right. Almost ready to getting ready to celebrate your 1 year's old birthday the next day.
Yep. Came out right before my birthday. Thanks, Coverdale.
That might be the best birthday present you ever got.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
And I didn't even know it at the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Another February 3rd, 1987, keeping on the Coverdale bandwagon, Here I Go Again is released again as a single, but this is the time that it broke Whitesnake and they dominated everything. And then we got we got Tawny Katane doing flips over car hoods, doing all sorts of unspeakable things with David Coverdale. It's a young boy watching the video being like, what is going on there? I remember I kind of being grossed out when I watched it for the first time. Being like, what is going on? She's putting his tongue right in his mouth.
Oh yeah, that was pretty graphic.
It was very graphic. I think it's graphic. I've seen it recently, and I was like, oh. It's almost like
no bones about it. It's like, oh, that lady's kissing that old man with tongue.
Yes, yeah. It's almost like more shocking than like watching something even more graphic, because you're just like, what is going on here?
I like her reaction every time is
But yeah, but as a young kid, I just remember I'm like, ooh, what's going on? I don't understand. I don't understand these feelings. And then
my trousers. I don't. My knickers.
Knickers, yeah, because I grew up in Yorkshire, just like David Coverdale. And then on February 8th, 2000, Deep Purple releases the concert at the Royal Albert Hall, which features a little bit of a jam. It features the full concerto and then a little bit more of a jam. So this I remember, I think you turned me on to this. Was this the one? This is the one where they did the where Ronnie James Dio played with them too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember you telling me about this probably when we talked a little bit right after John Lord died. And for some reason I had missed this like an idiot. Now I'm talking to all these people that listen to the show. I was like, oh, I was there. And I'm like, God damn it. Like I could have been there. Like I was just too stupid. I should have just, if I had known at the time, and if I knew then what I know now, I just would have freaking flown to London and watched this damn thing. Would have been so awesome. But I didn't. Great stuff. Okay. So that's all we got for the news. And yeah, I think that was a very interesting look into something that we don't normally kind of broach. I was a little worried going into this how it was going to go, and I think it went pretty well. We toyed with doing Gemini Suite first, and I said, let's do Windows because it's a little bit more unusual. Like I said, that's probably the first time I've listened to the full thing from start to end rather than just kind of listening to 10-minute segments here and there. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. But
same.
Anyway, let us know what you think. Comment on Twitter or Facebook, wherever you're following, the 10 million places you're following us on social media. Let us know what you think about Windows, and let us know what you think about the audio quality. Hopefully the new mic setup for John is working out, and it's going to sound a little more like we're in the same room and not like one of us is calling in or whatever. So.
Yeah, that would be great. I even coughed and sneezed a couple of times during the episode, and
the new cough switch. I didn't even detect it.
Oh, you didn't see me just be make wild gestures, but there was no sound.
I didn't. I was more looking at Eberhard Schoner's hair, though.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to.
All right, then. Well, until next week, my friend, I will talk to you later.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.